Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Sale. I'm the Nancy L. Donahue Artistic Director at MRT. And it's so awesome because joining me, I have an artist who I call it like crap rotates in many forms in terms of acting and playwriting. But we're here specifically to talk about his writing work. Vichet Chum, thank you so much for making time for us.
Of course, it's lovely to be here. I miss my Merrimack family.
Yeah. Um, so I've been talking to a lot of writers, and we've been talking about that sometimes there's this mythology about how a play gets made, and that you go away, and the magic happens, and out comes a play. And you and I both know that those processes are very different play to play. And so I wonder if you could talk about your process and your rhythm as you make your work as a writer.
Yeah, so I think most playwrights would say this, but it does look different for every process. Each one is sort of its own journey. For me, it's um, I have one mission, and it's pretty specific in my writing, and that's to write as many Cambodian characters as possible. And that may seem a little reductive, but to me, it's my entire livelihood. It's just really important to me to sort of um, proliferate these stories and to sort of give voice to the people that I love and who have made me who I am. And so, I start with that notion, sort of the foundation of my work, to be totally honest. And then, I decide on a set of variables that I want to play with, questions that I have, lots of questions. And then I sort of put these variables into a thing, and then I just sort of watch them collide with one another. And it's sort of this weird process of experimentation and just watching and observing and witnessing different dynamics and these things that keep me up at night, these questions that keep me up at night. Um, and then I mean, to be totally frank, I hate writing. I wish I could say that I just like wake up and I get my coffee and I'm like, yeah, let's write. But to me, it's existential, and it's every time I start, it feels like I have to ask myself that question of why. Why write about this? Why am I putting effort and energy into this project? And so the process of writing is hard for me, and
Mm.
I so much more enjoy the process of editing than I do writing, because then in the process of editing, I can at least look at what's inside of me, and I can sort of shape that, and I can calibrate that, and I can sort of move it towards the thing that I think it is. But writing is a violent process. It's a lot of me
Mm.
just grabbing my hair and staring at a computer screen and bemoaning why I decided to do this to begin with. Um, but no, I will absolutely say that each process looks very different. Um, and Yeah, it's a trial and error situation. It's a lot of each one takes a different number of drafts, and I rarely get to the end of a play and think, oh, it's done, it's
Mhm.
finished. Um, to me, it always feels like a living organism.
Um, I think that like parlays into something I've been asking folks, and I like it takes us in a bunch of different directions. My primary practice is as a director, and there's often times when I get to tech or I get to opening, and I think, wow, like where did that idea come from? Who even, where did it even start? And so the way I've been like wanting us to talk about that is when you sit down to write a play, do you know what you're capable of?
No, no, no. Um, I think that to be a writer and to sort of move through the writing process is to be surprised by everything that you discover along the way. And at times it takes collaborators, or it takes people who are witnessing your work to sort of point out what is thematically happening, or what is a reoccurring image or idea or motif or whatnot. But to me, it's like I think we all suffer from imposter syndrome for sure. There's a level of when you start there. Like I said, there's that question of relevancy, and like, does the world need plays, and does the world of plays need another writer? And so yeah, I look at a blank slate and I think I I am humbled by the experience of writing. I rarely start a play and think, I got this, you know. That's my own thing, but also I think that the act of writing is to relent to what is happening on the page, or what is being channeled through. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound magical, or that it's necessarily all alchemy or anything, but there is a process of like, you sit down to write, and then you put things onto the thing, and then you look at the thing of things, and then you go, oh, okay, well, I'll put that there, and I'll put that over there, and I'll definitely take that away, and then I'll put that over there. And to me, that has nothing to do with confidence or your self-esteem. It has more to do with the act and the willpower to just keep going. Because I think that if I thought about how incapable I was all the time while writing, I think I would never write. I would be stunted. I would be, I would be incapable of doing what I think that I am actually capable of doing.
You've developed work in a lot of places, both your own writing and working on new plays. I wonder if you could talk about in those environments, you know, what are the qualities you wish like every theater could pull from each one of them to make the best environment to make a new play?
So I do feel a bit like a baby playwright, because I am an actor as well, and I've stepped into more artistic spaces as an actor than a writer. And I feel like only in the last couple of years have I entered spaces as a playwright. And you have such a different vantage from being an actor and a playwright. For me, as a playwright, I mean, in the process of developing one of my plays, I think what I just aspire for spaces is that people are coming into this process not knowing what the thing is going to be. I think when people start making judgments and are deciding that they think that this is what it is, I think it sort of stunts the creative process, and it certainly prevents people from being totally free and totally open to the possibility of a play being anything. Because ultimately, I think I'm sort of an optimist in that way, where I think a play can be anything. And so, like, I just love it when I get to work with directors and playwrights who are like, oh, you want that? Sure, I'll try that really loud and wrong, you know, like huge choices. And then also, I think I can certainly feel the difference of when a theater, from top to bottom or from side to side, however you want to think about it, where everyone is engaged in the conversation of the work, versus people feeling like they have to stay in their corners, or that they're not as part of the creative process.
And I want to like talk specifically about audiences. And you know, if you had to write some recruitment language about the kind of audience, like the ideal new work audience, what does that feel like?
I think that's a challenging question. You know, I think that, you know, what Merrimack is great at is you've fostered an environment where, you know, it's always, the audience is always engaging with new work. So that is the neutral in a lot of ways. And I think at a lot of other theaters, I think there's this need to sort of, or this expectation to like satiate what you think an audience wants or desires. And that often comes with, you know, Shakespeare or Chekhov or some of our classical texts. And for me, I think I encourage theater makers and theater leaders to take chances, because I think you don't actually know what your audience wants all the time. I think I think you have an advantage with new work in that there's an opportunity to sort of create the narrative from scratch for the audience. And so for me, like just making new work period, it's hard for me to think about who's going to be in those seats, because I think that might cripple me in a lot of ways. I obviously make theater for people. I want people to engage with it. I want people to really experience it. Particularly my plays being plays that are, you know, topical to the Cambodian community and whatnot, and people of color and marginalized communities. To me, I think if I was just like super concerned with what I thought an audience would think at every turn, I just don't think I could do my work. I don't think I could do work that is true and authentic to my impulses and to who I am as a person. And so what I love is ultimately writing a play that I may think is very specific to me and to my experience, and then meeting audience members thereafter who have engaged with the piece and who then share with me how intimate or personal it felt to them. And that to me is the success of good new work, you know, the opportunity to sort of make something so personal and specific, and then to the author, to the creator, and then that be so specific and personal to an audience member. I mean, that's what we playwrights all aspire to do in a lot of ways. Yeah, and for me, it's like I'm just excited by how audiences are changing in a lot of ways. I mean, I think for a long time, audiences have existed as, you know, upper class people who have money, primarily white older patrons. And for me, it's like you if you present the content or present the stories that reflect your community, they will come. You just have to do the extra work.
So I think one of the things about this moment in particular is we are in a moment of instinct. Like we're on a different timeline right now, and you know, one of my goals in setting up a platform like this is to ask us all to listen better, because I think this platform is really good for that. I wonder, like, and that's really feeding me. I come out on the other end of these conversations. I'm so excited to share it with MRT patrons, but also personally, I'm learning so much from the artists I respect and admire. So I'm wondering for you right now, what are the things that are kind of in this moment of instinct? What are the things that are feeding you, and maybe more specific to your writing?
Oh gosh, that's a great question, and part of me doesn't know. Because it does feel so I feel like I'm moving from instinct to instinct, moment to moment right now. Personally speaking, I think that we're in a very specific moment right now, and like you said, it's asking of us to listen more and to witness and to sort of be more thoughtful and be more intentional about what we do or what we output. And that's related to where I am artistically right now. You know, I certainly I enjoy participating in Zooms, and I've watched a number of things online, and I really see this sort of race to be relevant, and this sort of like saturation of content, and us sort of trying to translate our work to these confines. And I I get it, because it's based on our survival. We're all trying to figure out how to be, how to survive. We're just trying to figure out how to survive. And in context of all of that, where I fall into it, I'm trying to take a step back and trying to look at what's happening and trying to observe what's happening to my peers and to my contemporaries and to my friends and to my artist friends. And I am writing, you know, I certainly have been writing, and, you know, there's that feeling of like, okay, now we have the time, right? But I think that we've quickly shifted to occupying our time a lot with these platforms. And so I'm just trying to be more thoughtful and more intentional, and trying to make meals and trying to work on my my well-being, and artistically speaking, I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth a bunch, but artistically speaking, I think I'm just trying to honor my impulses, honor my instincts, even more so than I do in normal circumstances. Nobody wants to write that Corona play, but like the other day I was like, but what if I did? And like wrote exactly what I'm feeling right now, and not think about what the end game of that project would be. What if I didn't think that story was going to be served to audiences? What if I just wrote how I'm feeling? There's a lot going on inside of me. There's a lot going on inside of my brain. There's a lot going inside of my heart. And sometimes just getting to sort of write honestly without censorship, without thinking about what the end game is going to be, maybe that's where I need to be right now. And whatever I come up with during this period of time is what I come up with, and it doesn't have to be relevant to when we re-enter society at all. It can just be a thing. It can just be an expression of where I'm at. And so that's where I am instinctually right now. Yeah.
I love that so much. I had a colleague recently say, you know, the reminder that we're all at home for everybody's safety and well-being. And that's the like Russian nesting doll. Like how do we do that as artists in the place that we're in? Right. It is so great to talk to you and to get to know you and your thinking and approach and thoughtfulness. And I can't wait to have you back at MRT in many capacities and more conversations. And yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate it, Courtney.